What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for yet another panel show. Me and Sim were up at Bramall Lane last night, got back at stupid o'clock. So we are here to dissect what did happen on that pitch yesterday. Today on the panel, we have got a new face for you guys. We bumped into him in Milan and we said, we got to get something done. We got to get something done. And here we are. It is Jamie from Daily Hotspur. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, it's a bit of a lag.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm all good, guys. Obviously, very disappointed after last night. Really disappointing result, kind of to go up the FA Cup in that manner. I think this was a competition I really wanted us to do well in this season, and obviously, really disappointed with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, I don't think you need any introduction like that, but how you doing, mate?
I'm hurting, mate. I am well and truly hurting the time on your show, just how much this trophy means to me and what it resembles in our history, and to go out with a performance like that is just unacceptable.
Yeah, I think we might be struggling with internet. I'm not sure whose internet is struggling, but there seemed to be a lag on everyone's end, to be honest.
We've just got a message. It's very laggy.
Can you put the thumbnail on?
One sec, guys. We'll try and fix this. 1 second. We'll try before we continue. 1 sec, guys. We'll try and fix this lag before we carry on. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
All right, what's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Sorry for the full start today, but we are back now. And like I said, the panel show today, we are going to be delving deep into what happened yesterday on that pitch at Bramall Lane, introducing you about time that we got on a stream together. Shame it's under these kind of circumstances, though.
Yeah, boys. Look, it was a pleasure meeting you in Milan. Obviously, meeting so many good Spurs fans as well, and it was one of my first experiences going away and supporting Spurs. And seeing the support out there was amazing. And Spurs fans this season away, especially away, been magnificent. Obviously, a lot would have travelled to Bramall Lane last night, and they 100% did not deserve that absolute rubbish. I had to watch on TV yesterday. I would have loved to have been up there in Sheffield, but the fans were magnificent, and it was obviously less of a pleasure watching the game and watching the rubbish that we got served up yesterday, watching kind of the disappointment of going out of another cup. I think it's probably the angriest I think I've ever been after a result. Yes, we've had so many over the years and there's been so much disappointment at the club, but I think this year it felt like a really, really fantastic opportunity to go and end that wait for silverware. We all want that FA Cup. We all want some of these players, the likes of Kane, Son, Hugo Lloris, to lift a trophy for Spurs, and it's another massive missed opportunity. And yeah, obviously not the best circumstances to be on the show, but look, pleasure to be on, guys.
Thank you very much. And a guy that needs a little less of an introduction on this channel, seeing as you're very used to seeing his face around, and it's Mr. Brian Daigle, Tottenham on Tour. How you doing, Brian?
Yep. Do you know what, mate? You look at it, and a lot of times people will say, let's sleep on it, wake up in the morning and look at it with fresh eyes. And I've woke up even more annoyed. I've woke up even angrier. God bless all the Spurs, like was just mentioned, the travelling Spurs faithful that I mentioned just down the watch along, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in the FA Cup, whether it be to the glitz and glamour stadiums or to the lower leagues, they turn out in their thousands, sing their hearts out, give the pride, passion, desire, commitment that we wish this bloody football team would do. And you guys know, and people on this channel know just how important the FA Cup is to me and just how badly I wanted this. And it's just another just utterly ridiculous and pathetic performance from Spurs. And yeah, I've just woken up even more furious than I was last night.
Yeah, you and me both, mate. Sim, obviously you're on the panel as well, mate.
Here I am. Glad to be here, guys.
How are you feeling after your after our trip down there, up there last night, getting back at 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning? Have you woke up more angry or less angry?
More angry. Look, we're all desperate to end this trophy drought. We all want Spurs to be lifting a trophy at the end of the day, and we won't get many bigger opportunities than we had yesterday. And considering we would have been at home to Blackburn in the next round for a chance of going back to Wembley. I'm just fuming that we approached the game in the manner that we did. We didn't take it as seriously as we could have, and that we didn't see it as the opportunity that it was. And it was like we risked what happened yesterday with how we approached the game, and we got all we deserved. And it really, really pisses me off because it's like they don't care about this cup. They don't care about the domestic trophies. They're concentrating on getting top 4, getting the Champions League revenue, and they're not interested in these domestic trophies because at the end of the day, if we win the trophy, it's only 2 million. So it doesn't seem to interest them. But it really, really bugs me that we've just approached the game in the manner that we did. And you know what pisses me off even more is the fact that Sheffield United cared even less than we did, and they still went through.
8 changes.
They made 8 changes.
8 changes. They made, and
we still couldn't get past them. We still could. They made 8 changes. They had their best players on the bench, and we still couldn't get past them. And that just makes me even more. They would have happily gone out tonight. You tell you what, if we would have won 1-0, you're not getting any Sheffield United fans jumping on stream saying, "Oh, it's a disgrace. They don't care about the club. They don't care. They're getting promoted. Whatever."
Watching their manager in the stands, I think obviously he was suspended for that one. You know, they went to him a couple of times. He didn't really look like that bothered. You know, they scored the goal and didn't look that bothered again. Never looked particularly nervous. And yeah, I think you're right. There wasn't really a team that were like desperate to go through. And again, that just makes it even more annoying that we've missed that massive opportunity. Again, you said there it was a rotated Sheffield United team. I think you know, obviously they are second in the Championship and their form has been decent as well. But you know, I think the last couple of games they suffered back-to-back defeats prior to their win on the weekend. So you know, it's not like it was a team that were flying as well. So yeah, really, really gutting. Just really gutting.
Let's move on to the first talking point of the panel today, and it's who is to blame for that performance last night. We'll start with you, Jamie. Who do you really think is to blame for the performance last night?
Yeah, do you know what? I've kind of put a tweet out as well that I think a lot of people are to blame for this one. I think you can almost blame all 3 parties. I think, you know, you look at obviously the defending, I thought was really poor. I'm watching back the goal. I've seen us concede that goal on numerous occasions. I think I even put kind of a thread up on my Twitter of seeing, I remember Orsic, when he scored in the Europa League against us, just ran through the right-hand side of our defence. I think there was a goal we conceded against Sporting Lisbon early in the season where just a lack of desire to kind of put a tackle in, and some really kind of just really shocking defending. And so obviously the players do take a certain credit for that in terms of letting us down. I think maybe the intensity was really poor. I think for a lot of these players, they should be desperate to win that competition. They should be desperate to kind of end that way for a trophy. And they didn't look like they really wanted it. So the players take the blame. I think the manager has to take somewhat of the blame to rest Christian Romero and Harry Kane. That for me really frustrated me yesterday. You know, there's obviously this talk we should be good enough to beat Sheffield United, but look how many times have we rested key players and gone out this competition. And we've got to realise that if we want to win it, we've got to play our best players. So that was a frustrating one. I think it's tactically again, you know, to kind of to play with the same way as we always do against a team who, you know, are in the Championship. I think that was frustrating. I think we should have been good enough to go up there and attack them, especially when you're playing such attacking wing backs as well. You've got Perisic and Pedro Porro. You should be looking to attack them. So I think there again, obviously the managerial team have to take some of the blame, and then of course comes back to a bit of the ownership as well. I think, you know, we know their approach to this cup competition. We know that their priority is on getting into that top four, is doing well in the Champions League. They don't care about the FA Cup. Realistically, that's not the one that's going to bring them the money. And then, of course, you know, year after year, we have the same defenders letting us down. I mean, you look through since like 2016 or so, the same defenders, you know, Ben Davis, Eric Dyer, Davinson Sanchez, all part of the defences that knocked us out this competition. So, yeah, I'm not exactly pinpointed one for you there, unfortunately, but I really believe it's kind of a collective blame there. And yeah, I've blamed a number of people there. So yes.
Yeah, I think you're completely spot on. And when you say those games since 2016, I mean, I've written a list of them now. I wrote a list of them this morning of these games, starting off with Poch's loss to Colchester on penalties. You had Sanchez, Dyer, Tanganga, Davis and Lucas in the starting 11. Poch's 2-0 loss to Palace in the FA Cup. Sanchez, Dyer, Lucas all starting. Jose, when we lost to Norwich on penalties, Dyer, Sanchez, Lucas all starting. When we lost to Zagreb 3-0 under Jose, Sanchez, Dyer, Davis, Lucas all starting. Under Nuno, we lost 1-0 to Vitesse, Sanchez and Davis both starting. Mura 2-1 under Conte, Tanganga and Sanchez both starting. Conte 1-0 loss to Middlesbrough, Dyer and Davis starting. This season against Nottingham Forest early on the season, Dyer and Sanchez starting. And then obviously last night against Sheffield United, Dyer, Davis, Sanchez and Lucas all starting. So Brian, it's always the same names, isn't it?
It is, mate. Let's just look at this. Manchester United, Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic, Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister. Chelsea, John Terry and Carvalho. The Filth, Adams and Bold, Campbell, Judas and Torre. Liverpool, Hupia and Carragher, Alan Hansen, and I think it was Terry McDermott or someone playing alongside him. These are defensive partnerships that spend a long time together because they are good, because they are brilliant. They get the job done and win trophies.
Yeah.
That record that you've just given. How is this allowed? Any other big club, you can't get the job done. Like they say with managers, you've taken us as far as you can go. You're gone. We need to get further. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace, and yet we're still talking about giving Eric Dyer a new contract so he can stay for even longer to add more of those cup exits that he's played a starting role at centre back. But like I said, you know where I put this blame. Lock, stock, and two smoking fucking barrels where I put it. But the what I will say is you've got to add to this as well. These players, how you cannot get up for an FA Cup potential quarter-final when this has opened up like England did with the World Cup in Russia when the big teams were getting knocked out and it was pretty plain sailing. How you have got no determination, no passion, no hunger, no commitment to go and put out a performance for this match, to go and try and make silverware. You look at this, and I said this yesterday, we used to take the piss out of Arsenal, going 7 years and you've won fuck all, 8 years and you won fuck all. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. We're at 15.
Yeah, and counting.
We're at 15, and these players, and like you said, Sheffield United, who are going for promotion, made 8 changes. 8 changes. We should have known. Listen, we've had managers knock us out when they're in prison, and now we have one that looked like he was standing on the roof from what the cameras. He didn't, obviously, weren't on the touchline, but the players. Listen, that front three was shocking again. Dan Juma is now getting the Jed Spence treatment. Oh, we wanted him in the summer, but we couldn't get him. Oh, but we can get him cheap on the loan in that. Oh, you're getting minutes, aren't you? You've come to add quality and depth. Oh, yeah, you're doing what. It's made the players need to take a hell of a lot of responsibility, but who signs the players? Who brings them in? Who signs the checks?
Yeah, it's true. And the fact of the matter is this is a consistent theme that keeps happening. We haven't gone past the 5th round of the FA Cup now for, 5 years? Which is a joke when you're looking at the teams that have knocked us out, when you're looking at the Norwiches, the Middlesbroughs, the Evertons. And that Everton game was probably our best performance of the season, by the way, that year, and the Jose. I mean, these teams that we're going out to consistently, time and time again, it's just nowhere near good enough from this football club. And what Stellini was saying yesterday in terms of the mentality is not there. They turn up thinking they've won the game. I mean, yeah, fine, that's not great from the players, and you don't want that from any player coming into an FA Cup game specifically. But surely you've got to look at the management for installing that mentality into them as well. What do you think, Sim?
I completely agree. I think the manager, I think the players feed off the energy of the coaching staff for sure when it comes to this kind of stuff, and then the coaching staff go by how they're being judged. And when it comes to these kind of games, you're going to yesterday, obviously for the fans, we look at it as a massive opportunity to progress, and we obviously want to go to the FA Cup. Well, look, we look at it as a big chance to actually get a trophy. But if you're Conte and the coaching staff, and they're weighing up how they approach this game in terms of team selection, and obviously we got a lot of games coming up. You can't play Kane every game, you can't play these players every game, so you got to pick and choose. But for me as a fan, like if we rest Kane and or on the weekend, or Romero on the weekend, and we don't get a result, then you still have time to recover that. You've got another 12 games after that, and we're in a decent position in the top 4 anyway. Even if we lose the game, we can still put up a fight if we go on a good run. And with Man City playing, Newcastle playing Man City on the weekend as well. But in this game, if you lose, you're out the cup, and you have no way of winning a trophy. Pretty much, it's pretty much our last avenue of winning a trophy this season. So for me, I would have prioritised this.
We're going to Istanbul, man. Come on.
Yeah, look, we'll go into that in a minute. But look, obviously, I wanted us to prioritise this game because I really wanted, by hook or by crook, to make sure we get through this game, and we've got a serious chance of going all the way in this trophy because we've already beaten Man City this season. You never know if we come up against Man United.
Blackburn at home, we would have got to go to a semi-final
exactly.
of the FA Cup.
So that obviously, so I think it definitely does. I think the whole thing, the whole mentality of between the players, coaching staff, and the board for sure contributes to this. But if when I go to the players. Obviously, the goal was pathetic in terms of the attempts to tackle and the attempts to try and block that shot. We just allowed him to weave his way past 3 players in a tight space, and no one puts a challenge in. And also the keeper as well. I mean, I know he was a bit unsighted, but he didn't cover himself in any glory as well with his attempt to save it. It was a shocking goal. But when it comes to how the game went in general, I have to say, I feel like the Stellini in selection in terms of that front three. Like, it kind of, if logically, it was never going to work. You have 3 players there who are all more comfortable dribbling with the ball at their feet, not really very good at link-up play. And then we're surprised when they're not linking up with each other. Like there's no passing in between the strikers. I think if you're going to play Richarlison up front and rest Kane, you have to play Kulusevski on the right, because there is without Kulusevski, we can't go into a game without Kulusevski and Kane. We have to play one or the other, because they're the only players in the front 3 who are going to get the ball to feet and actually have a bit of creation, actually have a bit of ball retention. Son, Richarlison, not as much to extent Lucas, but Son, Richarlison just give the ball away for fun up there. They can't make it stick. They're just giving the ball away constantly. So we got no ball retention when we're going into the front line with that front 3. But you could see that from a mile away. You could see if you're going to play a front 3 of those 3, we're never going to have that ball retention, especially when we don't have creative midfielders. So for me, it's not a surprise that those 3, like, it worries me when I hear Stellini after the game say, we had Son, Lucas, Richarlison, that should be good enough. And I'm like, yeah, individually they're very good players, but you should have known that was never going to work as a three. Go on, Jamie, you're going to say something.
I mean, they're also three players that just aren't used to playing with each other. They've not played a great deal, regardless, individually. But together, you're never going to have a front three that's going to fully function if they're not used to playing with each other. And that's what we saw yesterday, I think, as well. We kind of seen players, I think Son at times was almost playing in midfield, and we saw him trying to run. Same with Lucas Moura. There was no one kind of running in behind as well. There was no difference in that front three as well. So again, that was something that's frustrating. And yeah, just having that continuity in the attack or a lack of continuity, I should say, was what let us down big time.
But wait a sec, guys. Wait a sec, guys. If can we really use this excuse though up against a Sheffield United team that made 8 changes in their lineup?
So, Sim, this is why, I mean, Ben, sorry, what I want to say as well is I'm getting sick and tired as well of hearing Stellini, and Nick and I were listening on the drive home yesterday when we left the studio. We were lacking energy. I'm sorry, you made 6 changes. You should be in the peak of your powers right now, and you were concerned about a lack of energy. There are Spurs fans like your good selves that didn't get home till 2, 3, 4 in the morning today. What do you reckon would happen if they called their managers up and go, yeah, not coming in work today, I'm a little bit drained and lack of energy? They were like, well, piss off then. Don't come, you're like, goodbye. Why is it acceptable? Listen, the managers have got to come in for some of this as well. The same excuses, a lack of energy. We have a lack of energy because we're not rotating this squad. We don't have the quality to rotate this squad. And with people like Dan Juma that you brought the quality in, for some God knows reason, you don't want to play them. So it's the same bullshit excuses again.
Yeah, and I think with the management as well, first of all, when it comes to in terms of selection as well, just going on to Sanchez, I mean, without Romero there's just no defender on our team who's going to actually go and win the ball for us and actually get us on the front foot. He is the only one in the squad. So when you don't have him there, like it felt like Sheffield United could just keep the ball for fun, and we weren't able to actually get in, especially when we got forward, we weren't able to actually nip the ball off them and actually put us on the front foot. You had Sanchez, who pissed me off every time he fouled Billy Sharp. I was like, how can you not dominate someone like Billy Sharp, who must be like 33 or 34 now?
37.
He's 30, oh, bloody hell, 37. He's 37 years old. He's never been a Premier League striker his whole bloody career. And every time he gets the ball, Sanchez is fouling him and allowing Sheffield United to relieve the pressure every single time. And that just did my nutting. And obviously, him getting tackled by a ghost as well, that obviously didn't help his cause. And then, but not just even his individual quality, but it's just his profile. He's never going to go every time. Like Romero would dominate in those situations and actually win the ball back, and we can sustain some sort of pressure. But when we had Sanchez there up against trying to win the ball off Billy Sharp and continually fouling him all the time in those situations, it just completely broke up our momentum, and that really also. That was also a real worry. And then I think the management didn't manage the game very well. I thought the subs were really poor. I thought poorly timed, and I actually thought personnel-wise, like, whatever we want to say about Lucas, he was our brightest attacker on the day, even though he was pretty poor himself. I thought he was the brightest player, so I don't know why he's the one who got hooked off. I actually thought Pedro Porro, in a funny way, was just starting to get an influence in the game, and then he got taken off. I thought he was actually starting to find positions, finally, just before he got taken off, where he was starting to hurt them, and then he took him off and put Kulusevski wing back, and then we had nothing on that side. I thought the substitutions were poor. My opinion as well. They didn't manage the game well.
I think as well that right-hand side was such an issue for us. I mean, but Porro, I do feel a little bit sorry for him. Obviously, defensively, I think he's still going to learn and got a lot to learn in that sense. But, when you're playing, you've already got Davinson Sanchez as that right-sided centre-back, and then you're teaming him up with Pedro Porro. That's always asking for disaster. And again, that's kind of a little area of the team where I think they just got it wrong. And, Ben, I think you do make a great point. It should be good enough to beat Sheffield United. So this is again where I do think the blame does go everywhere, really. Obviously, tactically, I think we did get it wrong. And I think the players' attitude was just really poor. And, really just so disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the end of the day, right, you're talking about the Tottenham team yesterday, a team pretty much full of international footballers. I mean, Davinson Sanchez plays for Colombia. All these players pretty much play for their national sides, and you're talking about a championship side that played their second string against us, against a team full of internationals. But having said that, I came out the ground yesterday saying that team on the pitch was good enough to win that game yesterday. But then after that list I read out, it happens way too often and time again. So maybe I was wrong, and they're clearly just not good enough. What do you think, Brian?
Well, you know what I'd say, like kind of what Simeon was saying just earlier. If you look at it, with our attacking three, any three we put out should be good enough to see off a Sheffield United team, with no disrespect to Sheffield United, who were actually brilliant yesterday, and they deserve a lot of credit. As bad as we were, they were good. But you would think that starting three, Richarlison, the number 9 for Brazil, Heung-min Son, all right, he's had a woeful season by his standards, and Lucas Moura, or if that had been Kulusevski, or if that had been Danjuma, you would have thought, right, that's enough. But when it comes to that back three, like Simeon said, if Romero's not in it, we're fucked.
Yeah.
You would think with that forward line, that three is any three should be able to do a job. But that defence, no Romero, no clean sheet, no Romero, no defence. It's shocking.
Yeah, and we all knew about Pedro Porro's defensive frailties before he came to the club, and I think we've done him a bit of a disservice. The 2 games we've had him starting for us, one of them we got Tanganga right centre-back, and the other one we got Davinson Sanchez at right centre-back. I mean, we need to play it with Cuti Romero if we're going to play him with anyone, surely, Jamie.
The other point I'd say as well is I've always kind of made this point about the defence. Every top team, you start to build the team from the back, and then from there you think you're going to build forwards. You build the foundations first, and the foundations are the defence. And we've just never kind of built those foundations. We've stuck with Eric Dyer, we've stuck with Davinson Sanchez, as we mentioned, we've stuck with all these rubbish players, and that's why I don't think we're ever going to be able to play a high line. We're never going to be able to play on the front foot because we can't trust the defenders that we have, and I think that's why we play such turgid, rubbish football. It's so defensive all the time because. We can't trust them. So that for me is such a fundamental issue at Spurs. Our central defenders just are not good enough to put our trust in. So yeah, another really horrible area that the squad.
Yeah, I think we saw at Leicester because at Leicester we actually played a high line. We actually were attacking, and then what happened? We got absolutely destroyed. And the only way we compete is when the game is like a bit of a battle there, and we have to try and win the details and just make sure that we're not getting opened up and give ourselves a chance. And yeah, I agree. A lot of people complain about the football, but they've been complaining about it for the last 3 managers. Is it just all the managers' fault? I don't understand.
It's not all
You're
the
right as well. The whole stuff about the first half and why we start so solid, because we can't take the initiative to go and attack teams, as I said, because we can't play that high line, and that for me is again another reason why we have been such slow starters. Because as you said, Sim, when the game eventually does open up, the other team maybe come at us or come sit back a bit deeper and allow us to come onto them. That's when we can attack, but we just can never take that initiative to go at teams, and yeah, that comes down to defence.
All right, so I think
a lot of blame to go around.
Yeah, we can all agree that the blame can go around to everyone, pretty much, the coaching staff, the playing staff, and most definitely the board for keeping these defenders here for so long, to be honest. But let's move on and let's talk about why do Spurs never take these cup competitions seriously? We're talking about not getting past the 5th round now for the last 5 years. Prior to that, we did make 2 semi-finals, losing to Manchester United and Chelsea. But what is it about these cup competitions that we just keep resting big players? We don't seem to be taking it as seriously as the fans want to see it being taken seriously.
We used to be a cup team.
Exactly. We used to be. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was in school, Spurs have won the FA Cup more times than anyone else, 8 times. And now Arsenal have won more FA Cups than we've ever won since we've last won one. It's absolutely crazy. But Brian, what's your opinion on that one?
3 words. Daniel, Philip, Levy. We all know this. It's a money game now. It's not about the glory and winning the trophies. Like you were saying earlier, I think it's like £2 million if you win the FA Cup. It's priceless to us, priceless to our fans. We saw it with Jose, where one of the rumours after his dismissal were he wanted to rest everyone against Southampton for the Man City game, and Levy said, no, Champions League is still a viable target, so you don't rest players. The one manager that got us to a final recently is the one that cared about. I mean, Poch did this. it's just a theme. It seems to be with the club. You've seen the game of it is about glory has left the stadium. You don't see that about anymore because the game is about profit. And it's just not a viable thing for us. You know for a fact, if Spurs win the FA Cup and get 6th or 7th, the manager will probably lose their job. Yeah. If they get 4th and no trophy, they get rewarded with a new contract. And this is the issue we have. We all know, I've said it all the time, I will take 5th in the FA Cup, I'll take 6th in the FA Cup, I'll take top 10 in the FA Cup over finishing 4th. Even the League Cup, to say we got a trophy, but it's not what the aim is for this club anymore. You know, unfortunately, it's not. People go, oh, here goes Brian with his Levy agenda and Levy bias. It's the truth. 1 trophy in 23 years. Yes, managers are to blame. Yes, players are to blame. But there is a feeling within the club, or there's a philosophy and an ethos where success isn't about winning that silverware and trophies. Because then you don't get Champions League and you can't get the big players. And if you can't get the big, oh, wait a minute, we get Champions League and we don't do it. So for me, this is down to him. This is down to him. But like I said, players and managers aren't excused from it. But we've seen it throughout the years. Like you said, Ben, we won it 8 times in 1991. Arsenal have now won it 14. They've almost doubled us.
Not good enough. Not good enough whatsoever. But Jamie, is it solely to do with money why we don't take these cup competitions seriously? I mean, if we do win the FA Cup, that's a 2 million prize pot. If we win this AC Milan game next week alone, that's 10 million prize pot. Does that say everything you need to know?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I think Brian kind of said everything there in terms of, yes, the priority is always on getting into that top 4, and obviously that is because of getting that money, of kind of trying to grow the club as well. So yeah, that's why the priority is there. But look, as a supporter, I think for many years I'd always kind of taken being in the Champions League and having that experience, having those nights of being there. I wanted that, and I probably would have said I've taken that over an FA Cup, over the League Cup. Obviously, you know, I think growing up, the League Cup and the FA Cup for me had kind of lost its meaning, really. So that's maybe where I've got that different perspective. But I really thought the Champions League nights were very special. But I think this summer, you know, I was so excited to be back in the Champions League. I was so excited to have that opportunity. And then we go and have the summer we did, where it just felt so underwhelming. Like, we just did not take that opportunity of going and attracting Champions League level players, and we just did not capitalise. I felt like we had everything there to go and really kick on, sign players that were going to really improve us, but we just didn't. We got the likes of Clement Lenglet on loan. We got, you know, just players that were not quite good enough to really take us to that next level. And, you know, it almost feels like a waste to go and grow the club, because we're just not willing to go and get that level of player that's needed to really kick on and win the big trophies. So Champions League does feel almost irrelevant now for us. It's obviously fantastic having those nights, but look, are we going to get past AC Milan? I don't think so. I think, you know, we're going to probably go out in the round of 16. I don't think we're good enough to compete in that competition, unfortunately. So, you know, what's the point in being in it? So, yeah, it's a really kind of horrible cycle that we're stuck in at the moment. And yeah, I think Brian kind of got it spot on. It's just the priority is on getting the top 4, and yeah, as fans, we'll want to see that trophy, and I've accepted now that that's where the priorities lie. The priorities are top 4 over winning those trophies.
Sim, do you feel that the Champions League or European competition has killed domestic football a bit?
In a way, not just the money that is in it, but it's also the prestige, and obviously it's a bigger competition. So you always want, even like Europa League is bigger than an FA Cup or a League Cup because of what it gets you and getting those European trophies. So I think in the way those competitions have grown, I think it's made less important for the FA Cup, of course, naturally. When back in back in the day when you know, the FA Cup was the only game shown on TV, the FA Cup final, and the European Cup was big, but there was less teams in the European Cup as well. It was only the winners. I think it was a Cup Winners' Cup back then, so there wasn't like it is now, this whole league system. So I think with that growing and all the money growing, that's where people want to be, because they know that that's where the money is, and that's how you can really get your team to start competing financially, is getting that. Like, without the Champions League revenue, Tottenham are just nothing in financially. We're not going to be able to compete financially without the Champions League revenue in our model anyway. So naturally, that leads to those priorities.
Financially with the revenue.
Yeah, but at least we can spend I don't know, spend a bit of money, I guess. But no, we can't compete with City and Chelsea, even with the revenue, that's for sure. But when it comes to how much we can spend, like we're very reliant on that European revenue. If we win an FA Cup, it won't make a difference to us, unfortunately. And I mean the club, not the fans specifically. But when it comes to why we don't take it seriously, yeah, Brian is absolutely spot on. That the way that we've been under ENIC. The whole model is based on European football. That is the literal how it works. If we don't get European football, the model doesn't work. So the priorities are always going to be, that's what they're going to be judged on. That's what Conte and all the managers are going to be judged on. The only manager who actually took the cup seriously was Mourinho. And what happened? 6 days before a cup final, he was sacked. And you know why he was sacked? Because he was set to rest players for a league game for the final. That's why he was sacked. So that there's any proof that you need that we don't give a crap about these domestic cups. It's not even like we care a bit. We don't care at all. We literally risked a final. We sacked our manager just before our final. A manager who's known for winning finals. We sacked him a few days before a final because he risked one league game.
They put Ryan Mason in charge for that final, by the way.
Yeah. So if that doesn't tell you how much they care about domestic trophies, then I don't know what does. So I think the evidence is there. They couldn't care less about these trophies. And if you're a manager of Tottenham, then why would you care about the trophies when that's not what you're judged on? Mourinho did it for his own, cared about them for his pride, because that's what his whole thing is. He wins a trophy everywhere he goes. That's what he's based his brand on and everything. So of course he's going to take them as seriously as possible. And eventually it actually cost him in a way, taking it seriously, because he would have rested the whole team for a final. But if you're Pochettino, if you're Conte, if you're any other manager, then you're always going to sacrifice these competitions, because that's not the remit. You're employed. You're not employed to win these competitions. You're employed to get top four and get the Champions League. That is the remit of the job. So why would you take it seriously? I can't blame them in a way, because that's not what they're tasked with. They're not tasked with winning, going far in these competitions. That's not what they're judged on. They could go out in the third round every single year as long as they're getting top four. That's all they care about, the ownership.
Any closing comments on this one from you, Jamie?
I just think that seems exactly right. I think the mentality and why we're always so poor in this cup of competitions, and maybe why we say we should be good enough, but ultimately I think a lot of football comes down to mentality, and that starts from the top, and that starts from the club saying, right, we want to win this competition this year, but it's just so painfully obvious that is not the case. We all know they want to finish in that top four. So look, I think the reason why we should be good enough to win these competitions, but we're not, is because we do not have the right mentality from the top of the club. The priority is on that top four. And that is exactly why year after year we get knocked out of the competition by teams that we should be beating, because the mentality at the top just is on getting the top four.
Just to add on to what Jamie said, I mean, we all saw last week with Newcastle, the message Eddie Howe put up on the TV boards within the training ground from November, saying this will be 67 years or something since we've won something. Remember, we won. Words to that effect. And that was what greeted them every single morning in the training ground. That message saying, this is the Carabao Cup. We want to get to Wembley. We want to win a trophy. We want to win this drought. You won't see that at this club. You won't see that. You won't see anything like that.
What says it all? You know what says it all, Brian? We were in Israel for the pre-season game, right? The pre-season tour.
Yep.
Israel, Spurs Israel, right? They had a podcast with Ledley King put on by the club. Ledley King went to their studios, blah, 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 recorded this podcast. In a comment on the podcast, Ledley King says, this is the year to win trophies. What did the club do? They reviewed the podcast. They made them take that line out.
Yeah.
Does that not say
Says it all, doesn't it? Says it all.
I just don't get it. But anyway, let's move on. And we'll start with you, Brian, on this one.
Yeah.
Do you think that was Kane's last chance to win a trophy at Tottenham Hotspur?
I'm very concerned that it is. I'm really, really concerned, because I'll be honest here. As much as it will hate and destroy me, he needs to go. He needs to go. He's got the record. This man deserves silverware as a player. This man has given incredible service throughout his career. Never been a problem on the front pages, always dominating the headlines on the back pages. Never in trouble. You never see him out in the media. You never see him causing trouble. He is given targets. Obviously, he sets his own very high targets, but by the club, do this, do that. And he's always said, if you match my ambitions, well, Harry Kane has delivered every single season. Every single season. Through all the managers, through all the good times and the bad, and has been given false promise after false promise after false promise. I want to see Harry Kane win a trophy. As much as I'd love to see it with Tottenham Hotspur, as much as I'd love to see it, I just can't see it. Like we've just been speaking before with the cup competitions, we're miles away from the league. Let's be serious. We're miles away from the league. If we do get top four next season, can we say we're going to win the Champions League? Probably not. If we're in the Europa League, could we? Could we? But then you got the bigger dilemma as well as if he does go, who replaces him? But that's a different story because I think he could be gone this summer. I really, really think he could be gone this summer. He could say, and this was obviously the Champions League is still there, but I think this was his last viable chance and serious chance of winning silverware with Tottenham Hotspur.
Jamie, what do you think?
So crazily, I do believe that he will be here and he'll sign a new contract. I think that's something I know that's completely crazy, and I think that's going to happen. I think simply because he wants to stay in the Premier League. I don't think the options are there. I don't think Manchester United's a realistic option for him. I think they will go for someone maybe a younger profile. Then, of course, you look at the fact that Spurs are going to evaluate him something stupid, even though he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. I think they're still going to want like £100 million plus for him. So I don't think he's an option for Manchester United. I don't think he's an option for the other clubs. So I think he's just going to look at it and think he's got that connection now with the fans. He's got that connection here as the club. Just make himself a club legend. And I think for him, that opportunity has passed him by to go to a really big club. So I think he will still be here. But look, we've discussed it. We've said we're not going to win those smaller trophies because the club aren't going to take them seriously enough. And we're not a club that's anywhere near being good enough to win the big trophies. So do I think he's going to win a trophy? No, I don't. But I do think he will be here for a couple of years because I just think he's out of options, unfortunately. And I do believe the club, they're going to know that the situation is going to be pretty horrible in the summer for them, and they cannot afford to lose Harry Kane. I think they're going to do everything possible to keep him at the club. So he will stay. But yeah, I think he could go another 4 or 5 years at Spurs and probably won't win anything because of the mentality set by the board.
You mentioned that you can't see him really going to any other team in the Premier League just because it's not a viable option right now. Can you see him potentially going to a team like Newcastle? On the upward trajectory, in a massive need for attacking options. They got to a final, obviously, just a week ago. Do you think that's a viable option for him?
I think it would then depend on whether they're in the Champions League. I think at the moment, kind of the way they are going, I think the last 7 games, they've got 1 win. I think they've only scored 3 goals. So I think at the moment, they're probably not going to finish in the Champions League. So I think that's what it would depend on. But look, that could be a really great opportunity for him to go to a club that, as you said, is going in the right direction. If they were to have up Champions League football, they're going to pay him a lot of money as well to be there. So there is that. I think the other factor as well in terms of him staying, I think he's someone who's going to be very comfortable living where he is. I think we know with a lot of these players, I think a lot of the rubbish ones have stayed because simply they get paid a lot of money. They work in fantastic facilities. They're in London. So I think that's why we've seen a lot of the rubbish players stay. And that's something that Harry Kane might look at. And I know it's obviously pretty crazy. He might have bigger ambitions than that, but I think he'd be very comfortable where he is living in London. He's settled. His family is settled there. That might play a factor as well. So it sounds crazy, but I do think Harry Kane, for some crazy reason, will sign a new contract with Spurs.
Jamie, I just want to add to that very quickly. When you said about Manchester United, and it wouldn't be a viable option, the only thing that reminds me of is when Man U were desperate to win the league, they went and bought a 29-year-old Robin van Persie. So they needed to go get the striker to get the job done. Now, if Man U, they've got a cup in the bag, they could get into the FA Cup. Hell, they could still win the league. If they need a striker and a 1 year left on his contract, Harry Kane is available. I think if they do it for Van Persie, I think they're more than happily do it for Harry Kane.
Essentially, it'd be interesting to remember. I can't remember what they got Robin van Persie for.
30.
it would have been fairly cheap. We know with Spurs, they're never going to let Harry Kane go for less than 100 million, regardless of his contract situation. So that's maybe why I would say I don't think Man United's going to happen. I think when you're looking at £100 million, I think maybe you'd be better off looking at a younger alternative, a Victor Osimhen at Napoli or someone like that. I think that's what the profile they'd look to. Like I said, with Harry Kane, he's 30 now. Obviously, we know his injury record as well. I think that's going to put clubs off, and he is world class. So I think regardless of that, I think that's going to put clubs off. But,
and also
with
the Man United thing, I mean, is he really the perfect striker for a Ten Hag system at 30 years old?
I mean, if Weghorst can play in that system, why can't Kane?
Yeah, I mean, is Weghorst really the ideal player?
He's been great
in that system.
He's been great for them.
Is he the ideal player though?
I don't know, but he's been great.
I mean, like if you offered him the chance of signing,
it's interesting because he has almost playing as a number 10, really. I think at times.
Yeah. Kane would be amazing in that role.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if a Harry Kane becomes available, a lot of teams who weren't even looking start thinking, wait a minute, one of the greatest is available. If we can get this done, we're going to have to try and get this done, aren't they?
Yeah, very true.
I think majority of my thoughts, I want to believe, I have to believe in what Jamie's saying. You know, he's going to stay. He's going to sign a contract. He's in it for the long haul now. The boat has gone for him moving to a big club. I do want to believe it. I do kind of believe it. But then when I see like him after yesterday's defeat, how fuming he was, and when the more days like yesterday happen, the more I'm like, this guy, like, he's really good. Like, logically, he's going to have to see. Look, we know he's already questioned his future here. We know it for a fact that he was doubtful of his future at Tottenham 18 months ago. So it's only natural that the more what has really changed in terms of how close we are to winning things. Like, obviously we've got Conte and stuff, and we've maybe made moves which are better than where we were at the time under Nuno. But in terms of how close we are to actually winning big things and challenging for serious honours, we're not that much closer. We're not that much different to where we were back then. And back under Nuno, at that point, we were, I think, 2 years gone Pochettino. We'd really fallen off a cliff, and now it's like we're a bit directionless again, and that's the worry. Like if Conte leaves again in the summer, is he gonna start? Is he gonna be back where he was 2 years ago? Why wouldn't he? We've been, if especially if we don't win the Champions League and whatever, we would have crashed out again to another Championship team in the FA Cup. Would be another trophy this season. So why wouldn't he logically be turning around and thinking, be back in his mind where he was 2 years ago and thinking, why am I here? Why do I want to carry on? But I do have to hope that the fact that he's couple years older, maybe if we can convince him with another managerial appointment, that to convince him back. But I know that's what I'm thinking. But this is the thing. We laugh because it's true. Like, he should really be looking to leave. Probably at this point, that is the logical step for someone like him, like Van Persie did when he was not because he left during Arsenal's trophy drought, didn't he? Arsenal were a few years without a trophy. He was getting nearer 30, so he was like, "Look, I want to leave and actually win something big," and he went and won the Premier League. So, logically, you have to think Kane is probably going to think in a similar way, but. Look, I think a lot is riding on how this season ends. Look, you could laugh about a Champions League run, but if you think about it, when we did get to the final, it was actually a really similar season to this season. In a way, the whole season we weren't really playing well, although we were just about hanging on to top four. But the whole season we were kind of very disjointed the whole season, and we weren't really in the league playing well.
Sissoko in the middle.
We were kind of plugging stopgaps all over the pitch. We were just about getting over the line for top four. We went out early in the cups, and we somehow dragged ourselves to that Champions League final by hook or by crook. And you never know until you're out of that competition what can happen. So you never know. It's it's been a weird season. We're a weird club, and that was weird that we got to Champions League final that year. So it's a very similar circumstances to when we got to the Champions League final, but realistically we're probably not going to win that, and unless we actually get to a semi-final or something, if we go out in the quarters or round 16 and then we either just miss out on top four or just get top four even, there's not much for him to sit here and say, especially if Conte leaves and we're directionless again, why am I here? And that's got to be the worry for everyone. Do I think this is his last chance of winning a trophy? at Tottenham.
Well, clearly not, because we're going all the way in the Champions League.
He's
this
got
year,
one more
aren't we?
go. We've got one more go at it. We've got one more go at it. I don't know. Look, I think I just think it's all up in the air right now. I think it's impossible to call in terms of what he's thinking until the summer. I think it's still very much up in the air. I think he's seeing how the end of the season plays out, what happens with Conte, and then he'll make his judgment. I don't think he's made up his mind right now, but I think days like yesterday only put it to the forefront of his mind. I'm sure of it.
Well, you know what? If we are going to sell him, you know it's going to rumble on right until the last day of the transfer window in the summer. He'll probably, if he does go, it'll be like on the last day or something. And you never know, maybe another Audi Cup or something is going to be in the offing in the summer or something like that. But in my opinion, I agree. I think Kane should be looking to leave right now. It's just rinse and repeat every season, year on, year out. And do I see it changing next season? I mean, I genuinely believe that if Conte can stay for next season and we were to sign 2 top centre-backs and a goalkeeper, I actually think that we could have a really good season next year, and I think we'd be defensively sound. We know we can score goals. So I actually think if we were just to only sign those 3 players, I know we would need more to make a complete squad and a complete team, but I actually think we would see a much different Tottenham next season. I really do. So, I mean, is there an argument to say maybe wait around till the end of the transfer window to push for that move? Maybe. Are we going to get the players that we actually want? That's another question. We don't know. So I think Kane probably right now, as things stands, does want to leave. But I do think there's still room between now until the end of the transfer window to convince him. What do you think, Brian?
We've grown up, obviously, and hearing our parents and our grandparents talking about famous players that have played in our famous shirt and in the stadium. And obviously the comparison when we're talking Harry Kane is always to Jimmy Greaves, where the 4 of us have only seen this man on video and heard stories from him on and off the pitch from family members, friends, fellow Spurs supporters. Well, we've just seen our version of Jimmy Greaves in Harry Kane. He is the greatest modern-day player we've had. He's our record goal scorer, which we're privileged to have seen. And this guy is he's fundamental to everything, isn't he? He is literally fundamental. I was on a pod on Monday, and I asked the question about, like, if we took it, I asked where will we be in the league if we took his goals out or his goal contributions this season. And the day before the Spurs-Arsenal game, if they'd taken out just in the Premier League, we'd have been 12th. We'd be 12th without his goal contributions, and that was only up until January. Let's not include what he scored in February. I really want him to stay. But like you said, I would love us to say, right, we're buying 2 centre defenders. We're going to buy the quality that we've kicked the can down the road to the summer and the goalkeeper. But you all know full well I have absolutely no faith whatsoever that will happen. And then you got to wonder if a deal comes in for Harry, let's say at the start of the window, and he turns it down because he wants to see what happens, and then the same shit happens again. Then we're going to have a very unhappy Harry Kane on our side. I want him to submit. I want him to sign a contract. I want him to finish his career at Spurs. I want him to lift the trophy at Spurs. I just can't see it happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just think for me the big question for when it was trying the Harry Kane thing is, we know for a fact 18 months ago he wanted to leave. His headspace was, I need to leave, I need to go. Now we got him to stay. We kept him, but in terms of if he's going to leave, the question mark is how have we convinced him? Can we convince him that we've changed in those 2 years? Have things changed? And if the answer is no, then why wouldn't his headspace go back to where it was?
Do you believe anything has changed in that time?
No.
Nothing. Because to me, I think the club has changed a little bit in that time. And I think since Paratici has come in, I actually see the club going in a bit of a better direction than it was beforehand. When you're looking at the players Paratici has brought in, you're looking at, for the start, I'm not talking about the loan players like Longley and Danjuma. I'm talking about Pedro Porro, Christian Romero, Dejan Kulusevski, Rodrigo Bentancur. You know, you've got players there that are going to be here for a long time, and they're all top players or going to be top players. So I'm looking at the squad right now. I think the state of the squad is poor because of the players hanging over from the Poch area and those kind of players. But I'm looking at I can see something happening here, and I can see a team forming. And I feel, like I said before, I genuinely believe just 2 top centre-backs and a goalkeeper, and you'll see a much different Tottenham Hotspur next season. So I do think things have slightly changed since that time.
Since 18 months ago, Spurs, even like 10 years ago or even beforehand, we've always had moments where we spent money. We had summers where we spent big on like Darren Bent and David Bentley and all these things. It's all about whether he's convinced that we are going to be in a position to really challenge for big things, and has that changed the direction of the club after 2 years of wanting out. Especially if Conte leaves this summer, which is not looking unlikely right now. Where are we going as a club? Like, what is the direction? Are we bringing back Pochettino and then we're going to start challenging again? Is that what his idea is? So, if he felt that 2 years ago, like, he's been here for a long time, he's never won a trophy. We were 3 years of just kind of in the abyss, and now 2 years down that line, we still haven't won a trophy. We've had another elite manager come and go. Where would his head be like? Oh, I do see these up and coming players, and there is start of a project. Or would it be like, I need to win now, and we're still not going the direction where we're going to be competing? And like, has enough change, I guess, is the question. Maybe a bit has changed, but there's enough change for him to say, I'm going to commit my long-term future here.
No, to me, I don't know. Go on, Jamie. What are you saying?
Do you know what, Ben? I think you made a really interesting point about Praticin and whether the club has changed. I think his success rate, obviously, you're going to get some transfers wrong. There are going to be 1 or 2 that you are going to get wrong. But I think generally, he has been pretty successful at Spurs. Some of the players you mentioned there have been really good. And we do look like we are building some sort of team. And we are a couple of players maybe short. And look, I think maybe for a bit of positivity, I think sometimes it can be very difficult to kind of see where the end is. We saw that with Mikel Arteta when he was trying to rebuild his team. There was so many times when he could have been sacked. He should have gone, but they kind of stuck with him. Obviously, whether Conte is the right man to keep going, to keep building this squad. But I think Paratici seems to be the guy that's in charge of it at the moment, and I think he is building something there. But if you get the right manager, we can do something pretty good. Obviously, I really thought we were going to kick on in the summer, and it didn't happen. And we've seen it end this summers now, where there has been almost these false dawns, and that's sort of, as a Spurs fan, I think we are right to be kind of very pessimistic about that. But I think you're right, Ben. I think we have got the foundations there for a good team, but we are some fundamental players short at the moment. And if we do go and address the central defensive issue, the goalkeeper issue in the summer, then I think we are on the right path for success, and we can build something with Harry Kane. But yeah, at the moment, it's obviously very difficult to see that, because we're always very pessimistic as Spurs fans, and rightfully so, probably. Yeah, but
my point is, like, Kane has probably heard we're only a few players away for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that hasn't actually been the case, though, for 10 years.
It has been. At Pochettino, we're only a few players away.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
was 5-6 years ago.
Huh?
Pochettino
was born in 2014. That's 9 years ago.
With Pochettino, though, I think we were in a different place as a club. We were at this
100%
playing at that small stadium. We weren't consistently getting Champions League football. And yes, look, I think we will spend more money. But, if we have got those competitions, we have got the stadium. We do have a bit more flexibility. So I think as a club, we are in a very different place to where we were under Pochettino. So yeah, as a bit of positivity, I think as a club, we are in maybe a much better place there. I do think we are on the right track for potentially building a successful team. I said, whether that is with Conte, we don't know yet. But yeah, I think there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But whether they do go and finally get those final pieces is we'll have to wait and see.
I don't disagree with you, Jamie, that we're in a different place as a club. We're now maybe a bit more able to spend than we were when we were building the stadium. But if I'm just taking it from Harry Kane's point of view, if you're hearing those same excuses year on year on year on year, is there a reason to? Is he now going to start? Is he going to start believing them now? Is now because he's been believing it for so long, and when does it get to a point where he's like, is this ever going to happen? You know what I mean? And is it this summer? That's the big question.
Simeon, it's boy who cried wolf syndrome. It's literally
That's
what
the
it is.
worry.
Oh,
That's the worry. And the thing is, it could be that if he takes a little bit more patience, then we are onto something big. But it's whether like he's been patient for so long. It's like but then it also like puts so much pressure on next season. It's like if we don't win again next season, it's like then is it for sure guaranteed?
Let's
you
be
know
honest.
what I mean?
The board, the way they've acted since, let's say, since Kane broke into the team, really, they don't deserve Kane's trust. They don't deserve Kane's to be more patient. He's been more enough patient with them for way too long, and I completely would understand his position if he would want to leave this summer. But at the end of the day, like I said before, I can actually see something growing here at Tottenham. I can see. When we had Pochettino as the manager, we didn't spend anywhere near enough money, and that was the clear argument from the Spurs fans, and it was very much warranted. I think after Pochettino, even with Pochettino, we started to spend money after getting to the Champions League final, bring in Ndombele, Lo Celso, Ryan Sessegnon. The argument was, all right, we're spending money now, but the recruitment is terrible. The recruitment is absolutely terrible. Then after that, since Paratici has come in, yes, you can argue we can still spend a bit more money, but I think the recruitment is getting better. So I think we have made steps in the right direction. What are you saying, Brian?
It's a tough one. I agree with Paratici. It seems to be we're identifying the players again. I mean, there's no doubt what Kulusevski and Bentancur have brought in. There's no doubt what Romero has brought in. We can see what's coming with Sarr. Hill up in the air. Then we can talk Galini and all those crap ones that have obviously. I think Paratici can find these, but again, we talk about this, and it's not just about the money. Listen, last summer we were going mad for De Vrij. The club wanted De Vrij. We were linked with De Vrij. We're going to go get De Vrij.
You mean Bastoni?
No, De Vrij as well.
Oh, De Vrij.
But what I'm saying is De Vrij wasn't expensive compared to a Bastoni. You don't have to. I want to see some world-class players or some established trophy-winning, experienced international players coming in to benefit the team. De Vrij instantly improves this team. Instantly. And we know this defence is such a huge issue, but you're talking about getting these defenders in. If Kane goes, getting defenders in goes down the back burner, and we have to try and find a striker to replace Harry Kane. And we all know that's going to take 2 or 3 players because of what he brings apart from goals. Then we spend that money on the 2 or 3 players. They'll be like, oh, what about these defenders that we desperately need? Yeah. Because we can't defend. Well, now we can't score. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, we'll kick the defenders down to January. Oh, yeah, we'll do that because Daniel Levy says it, so it's going to happen. Paratici can identify the players. We'll pay the money.
Yeah, I think, Brian, if Harry Kane leaves in the summer, we're going to have to start singing "We Can't Defend and We Can't Attack." Daniel Levy's our chairman, something like that.
Yeah, I'll come up with another song, trust me.
Yeah, please.
But that's the problem we're in, isn't it? That's the problem we're in.
Yeah. No, it is. Look, I think we can all argue this until the cows come home in the morning, but we've got one more topic to talk about, and it kind of does follow on from what you were saying, Brian, but is it time to start worrying about Richarlison? Obviously, £60 million signing in the summer. We all got quite excited when we did sign him. Not one Premier League goal as of yet. Been pushed out to the left wing, pushed out to the right wing. Finally got his first start as a starting striker last night. And by all accounts, he was pretty terrible, to be honest. So is it time to start worrying, Jamie?
No, for me, look, I think the treatment of Richarlison has been really poor this season, to be honest. I think he's had the opportunities to start. You've got Heung-min Son, who's been struggling out on that left-hand side. Conte, right, so as much as we have, berated Daniel Levy, and rightfully so, he gave Conte a £60 million backup player, or this guy who's going to come in and be able to rotate. And Conte just hasn't used him. He's had these sporadic minutes where he's coming in and out of the team. And I just think, as I said earlier, you're never going to be able to build any sort of confidence, any continuity in your game. You're never going to be able to sort of build any rhythm. And just coming in and out of the team, I think it's such a difficult role for him to play. So I do feel sorry for him from that perspective. Obviously, you would like to see, even, regardless of that, something. But I do kind of blame Conte for it a little bit. He's been given that striker, and he's just really not used him very well. So I feel pretty sorry for him, the treatment that he's been given. Yes, of course, he is a multi-million-pound footballer, so you shouldn't have to feel sorry for him. He should be getting the job done. But look, I still think he's a real person. These athletes, they're still humans, and I just think the way that he has been treated has been pretty poor. So yeah, as much as his performances have not been great, I think that the way that he has been used in the squad has been really disappointing. And I think Conte's got to get better out of him. I think as well, Conte should be coaching him. And I think we know that Conte is maybe not someone that will coach players and improve them individually. And that's another kind of concern I have a little bit with Conte. As much as I do love him, I think he's a brilliant coach in terms of coaching fantastic teams. I think as an individual, in terms of improving players, he doesn't quite do that. So been given a 60 million pound striker. He's not really used him, and so I do feel sorry for Richarlison a little bit.
Yeah, look, I kind of look at it from two ways. I think that when you're looking at Richarlison, I do feel for him, like you say, because he hasn't got enough game time, especially in his favoured position. When he first came, he was pushed out to the right, which is probably the weakest of his three positions with left wing and striker. He's only played one game at striker away at Sheffield United last night, and he's only now had consistent starts in the Premier League as well. So I think we are doing Richarlison a bit of a disservice, but on the other hand, you have to take your chances when they come your way, and he hasn't done that. And time again, we're seeing carbon copy performances from Richarlison that's nowhere near good enough. And like his best performances we're seeing in the Premier League, the best things that we can say about it is, he's given the opposition a hard time. He's backing into them. He's being physical with them, but nothing that we want to see from. I mean, we want to see that, but we don't see any attacking output from him. And he's supposed to be a winger/striker, which is nowhere near good enough. So you need to take your chances when they come to you. And like, he's a Premier League player with Premier League experience for many years now, starting striker for Brazil. You look at Leandro Trossard that's come in at Brighton. He's come in and straight away hit the ground running, taking the chances as soon as he's got them. Why aren't we seeing that from Richarlison? Brian?
What can I say? I mean, first of all, like I said, we saw Richarlison, what he does for Brazil during the World Cup, scoring bangers, interchanging with play, having a real impact on the game. And then obviously we all saw that shot yesterday that almost went out for a throw-in. I mean, that was just night and day. Like you've all said, we have been doing him a disservice. He had an injury run as well. But you got to remember, Ben, when he first came, he started playing on the left as a sub coming on for Son. And when he was doing the kick-ups at Forest, and then when he came on against Fulham, he was having such an impact. It was like, do you know what? There is genuine competition on that left side now. If Sonny isn't on form, not little did we know what was going to happen. It looks like we found someone that can do it. But Sonny has had a woeful season. Let's be serious. An absolutely horrific season. But he still plays. How does that make Richarlison feel? And then when Kulusevski gets injured, it's like, right, Richarlison, we're going to play you in your worst position. I still think there's a player in him, but I am with the help of Simeon, who brainwashed me in June. I always give him the credit or the grief for that, whichever way you want to look at it. I still think there's a player in there, but this is, like you said, we're now into March, and this is his most consistent running games. And we've asked him twice to play on the left, once in the centre, but he should have got off the mark in the Premier League by now. He's added, like you said, Ben, when you get these opportunities, you've got to take them. If they were in Brazil shirts, he's scoring. All right, he's got Neymar, Vinicius Junior and all that around him. But like you said as well, he's been in England a good few years now. There's no problem with the language. There's no problem with getting used to the climate or the culture, everything here. So he's got to be take responsibility and be held accountable as well. But he needs to do something. He needs to take his chances, and we need to say, right, you're going to play for X, Y, Z amount of games, and you're playing here. Start filling your boots up. Don't worry about the shithousery. Put the ball in the back of the net.
Yes.
Sim?
Well, as president of the Richarlison fan club, I'm always going to back my boy. I'm always going to give him the fairest assessment.
Sexual fan club.
Come on, but look, I even have to say, like, as much as I'm still fully believe Richarlison's a quality player, and I was a big fan of his signing, and I really believe it was necessary, and I really believe he could be a very good player for us. I'm slightly concerned, I have to say, with what he has shown when he has been given the opportunity. I think he has had high moments. Like I thought when we played at home to Fulham, I thought he was excellent. He looked really bright. I remember he hit the post with an amazing volley. He was like
That was his first
involved.
Premier League start, wasn't it?
And might have been, but I thought he was brilliant in that game. But we haven't kind of seen that level of performance consistently when he has been given a chance, and that has been a bit of a worry. He hasn't been able to impact games in the final third anywhere near as much as I would like him to with a player of his amount of quality. And I do think he's frustrated a lot of people with his poor first touch and sometimes his decision making and his passing as well is very loose, lack of care. Sometimes he just like passes it off without really thinking, and a lot of the time it doesn't come off for him, and that's got to be a bit frustrating. But you got to remember, first of all, he's had, I think, 2 periods where he's had injuries. Just before the World Cup, he had a bad, I think, hamstring injury, which kept him out for a month or so. And then at the World Cup, he picked up an injury, and that ruled him out for a bit as well. So that obviously has taken time to recover from. As you say, he's been playing in his least favoured position more often than not, although we've seen him on the left recently. But again, a player like Richarlison, when you're used to being the main man at a team like Everton, everything was going through him pretty much. He was playing every game. He felt that love from the fan base as well. Not to say that I don't think he's been welcomed at Tottenham, because I do think he has been, but at Everton he was absolutely adored, and they worshipped him a bit, and they really he bought into that, and he was the main man there, playing every game. And at Tottenham it's different. He's been in and out the team. A lot of fans have been undecided of him. A lot of fans think we overpaid for him and things like that. So all of a sudden he's got to win fans over as well, and that has got to take its toll. You got to remember, Heung-min Son had a very difficult first season at Tottenham. He very nearly left when it came to the summer. He wanted out, and Poch had to convince him to stay. So a lot of the times, first seasons can be quite difficult at new clubs for whatever reason, especially when you have a World Cup in the middle of it and injuries and you're not played your favourite position. But when he gets a chance like yesterday, I know this is his first game for Tottenham specifically in a number 9 position, but when you get a chance to lead the line, you just got to show more than what he did. You got to fight more. I felt like he was bullied way too easy for someone of Richarlison's physicality. He was so anonymous in the game yesterday, and the only time he had 2 shots. One of them he blows over the bar from a tight angle, which he was unlikely to score from. The other chance, he was on the edge of the D and he put it near the corner flag. He has to be more involved. He has to be shown for the ball a bit more. He has to show a bit more ability to retain it and show a bit more of his physicality in that position. And maybe that comes with time and with rhythm. So maybe you've got to give him a bit of, if he's going to play that role more regularly, you've got to give him a pass a bit. But I am a bit concerned with the lack of quality in the final third he has shown when given the opportunity, especially as when he first came, he was actually showing more, and it seemed to have been decreasing, and that's a bit of a worry as well. But I'm still confident that he's going to, if you give him the more game time, the better he'll be, I'm hoping, and that he can still be a very good player for us. And I still think he's a very good player in there, and I think he's shown that more than enough times in the Premier League and at international level. But I can't defend the quality he's showing, because when you buy a player for 60 million, his first touch is atrocious. I'm sorry, he's got to be better than what he's showing. That has got to be a worry. So he's got to improve on those aspects. But if he does, there's a very good player in there.
Yeah.
Are you worried about him?
Am I worried? I am worried about him. I am really worried about him, because when you're looking at the profile of player that we've brought in, bundles of Premier League experience, international striker. He knows the Premier League inside out, and we're just not seeing a 60 million pound player at the moment, regardless of how much minutes he's getting, regardless of whether he's being played on the right, left, or in the middle. It's pretty much carbon copy performances, whatever position he plays. So I'm really worried about Richarlison. I mean, I wasn't the biggest Richarlison fan before he joined Spurs when he was at Everton, and I did get pulled into the bandwagon just before we signed him. So, I mean, I'm willing to give him all the time in the world to really turn this around, but I am very much starting to worry. And when you bring up players like Heung-min Son and Luka Modric and these kind of players who struggled in their first season, none of these players had Premier League experience before they joined us. I mean, the only player I can remember with a lot of Premier League experience that struggled when they joined us and turned it around is Moussa Sissoko, really. I can't really think of anyone else. I mean, you've probably got a better memory than me. You can think of one, but...
Moussa Dembele, maybe?
Moussa Dembele, I mean... For me, a player like Richarlison, if you're going to buy him for 60 million, you're buying him for 60 million because of the Premier League experience and because you think he can come in and hit the ground running. And he hasn't done that, in my opinion.
Yep.
That's true, but doesn't mean just because if he has a bad first season, then does turn around, it's a waste of money. Yeah.
No, like I said, I'm willing to give him the time. I'm willing to give him the time, but right now I am starting to worry. Anything from you, Jamie?
No, I just think we've all kind of listed reasons there why maybe he has struggled. You know, I think that was an interesting point about the injuries. He has been very unfortunate with injuries. I think, you know, we've seen him suffer 2 or 3 fairly big injuries, and they have been muscular ones. And I think when you suffer muscular ones, you can almost lose a bit of confidence in yourself. You know, you don't want to kind of exert yourself, so you suffer a relapse of that injury. So that is a difficulty. Then of course I think it was Brian you mentioned about him being played out of position as well, being stuck up on the right hand side. You know, when you're playing out of position, it's just very difficult to give your best. And then of course we mentioned with the lack of minutes. So you know, there's 3 big reasons there why potentially he has struggled. But I think you all made the point as well that £60 million, he has to be doing better. So I'm very mixed on him, but I think we all kind of agreed that he deserves a bit more time.
Yeah. You know the other frustrating thing about it is, I love how Spurs fans come up with these songs, and I loved Christian. How we got a song out of Agadoo was something quite mind blowing to me. And now that we've got the do diddy do, I fucking love that song. I want to hear that going on for ages, like when we're singing Harry Kane or whatever song. It's such a good chant, and we're not getting to sing it. It's one of those real upbeat, get the whole place going, and we're just not being able to sing it.
Yeah.
It's like we only do it if he just poleaxes someone. It's like, there's Richarlison, let's sing his song.
I think he gets another start on the weekend.
Yeah,
I reckon because
I think we go
much.
unchanged from the back in the Premier League games.
Yeah,
next game.
Yeah,
I reckon he can.
Agreed.
But look, I think we'll leave it there, guys. But thank you, boys, so much for coming on, Jamie and Brian. We'll start with Brian. Any interesting shows on Tottenham on Tour coming up this week?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a few things over the weekend. Hopefully, I'm after this just about to record tomorrow's episode of Cockerel Doodle Doo. So that'll be going out around 8:30, 9 o'clock tomorrow. And there should be a few shows next week. And hopefully there'll be a happy show because we've just beaten Wolves. Hopefully. Let's hope.
Wouldn't bet on it.
Mate, I'm not betting on it.
I wouldn't bet against it either.
Yeah, true. But Brian, you have to fully give up on Tottenham before they start winning again. So you have to be fully convinced we're going to lose.
Okay, so we're gonna get pummeled. We're gonna get pummeled, absolutely annihilated.
And Jamie, where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my @'s on screen there on Twitter. I think at the moment we're just on Twitter at the moment, so yeah, make sure to go and follow that if you want to. But boys, thank you very much for having me on. Absolute pleasure. It's really strange kind of watching you guys and having to respond because usually I'm just watching the videos, loving them. So absolute pleasure to be on.
Thanks for coming on, and yeah, we'll definitely make sure to do it again sometime soon. But that brings an end to the panel show today. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you all tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.